We will now begin our second round, which is for the Council at Large candidate forum, which is the question and answer portion. And we will start with Mr. Rivera to be the first one. Before you begin, Mr. Rivera, just remind the candidates that you have 2 minutes to respond to the question. Thank you.
How you doing? To the council, to the candidates. Just want to remind the public the questions I'm about to ask is not addressed at a specific candidate. I don't feel I'm running against anyone. We're just here to, present our platform. There is 3 positions available, and we just want the residents to make, the best informed decision they can make. So all of my questions are going to be addressed to all 3. So if elected, you will be making decisions that affect, basically on behalf of all of us, the residents, which affect all of our lives. So the first question is, what are the 3 legal ways? Remember, you will be making decisions, so you gotta understand the resources. What is the 3 legal ways a government entity like this is able to spend money? 3 legal ways.
Begin with Mr. Roberts.
I'm not super sure I understand the question. What's the 3 legal ways that a government can spend money?
I'll give you the first answer if it's okay. It is a tough question. The first one is through the budget, right? That gives the authority to the council and the mayor to spend money. There is 2 other resources that are out there.
Okay, so so this is technically it's a trick question, but the way that anybody spends money is obviously through payments of whatever needs to be paid. Now, the budget the budget sets the direction for the city. Nothing is actually paid off of the budget. The budget gives the resource. The budget are just line items that gives the administration the ability or the guidelines in terms of what they should pay or what they shouldn't pay. Now, that's the reason why we've had so many issues in the past with such things as transitional aid. When the budget doesn't match up with what's actually spent, that's when you have an issue to where you need the state to come in and provide transitional aid. So when you ask what are the 3 legal ways in order to pay bills, I'm not real sure that that's actually an answer to that question, because it is the budget. You mentioned that the budget was the first way in order to pay bills. No, the budget is the guideline that's set forward in order for the administration to be able to figure out what it is they can spend and what they shouldn't spend. And every year they go over that budget, which is why you need transitional aid. Thank you.
The next question, you're not going to rebuttal.
No, it's not a rebuttal.
No.
I would not do that. I got to rephrase the question because...
Okay, rephrase it.
Yeah,
for
rephrase it, the
Mr.
same line.
Santiago.
Yes, I never said, never said, the question was never, I used the word, the 3 legal ways of spending money in city government. What are they? I gave you the first one, which is through
Mr.
the
Rivera,
budget.
you said it already.
Okay.
Mr. Santiago?
Well, from my understanding, being an employee for the city, you have a budget, you present the bills, and they are supposed to be sent towards different departments. The city council has a package, and then they go into a workshop, and they look into some of these bills, which apparently I guess that's how it is. Everybody's different. Which when I was in the school board, we did that. We have a workshop. We spoke about certain budgets and what was going to be spent. And then, apparently it should go up for a vote to see if it's going to be approved or not approved. So that is my understanding. If I try to add anything else, certain people are experts on certain things and certain people are experts on other things. So that's the best answer I can give.
Mr. Thomas?
Yes, from my understanding, when you was talking about one of the first ways is through the budget. And when the council is presenting a budget, sometimes there is like expectations. Like for example, with the auctions, they expected to make more money through the auctions, the properties, than it really was. So the budget is one way for us to able to legally spend money. Another way is through special appropriations or through emergency appropriations. So for example, if there's an emergency situation where the city government needs to spend money, that's where it comes through like, the city council to vote on it as well, if it's not something that's already allocated in the budget.
Thank you. Mr. Rivera, your second question?
Yes. So, we're 9 members on the city council. I want to know, what do you bring to the table that would improve the function of this council to bring check and balance in government?
Start with Mr. Santiago.
Simple. Work as a team, work together. I can't be a one-man gang just sitting up here trying to move the city forward. Is totally unbelievable. In order for us to move the city forward, we as a council have to work together. Bygones be bygones, work together, work with the mayor, with the administration. But one thing I will for sure you is it's corruption. I will expose it to the highest, to the most fullest capacity that I could ever do. Everybody's just tired. I just want to be a people's person, open door policy, take this as a full-time job, not a part-time job. And I just want to help the public. We have serious problems here. Serious. Thank you.
Could you repeat the question, Mr. Flavio? Yes.
Sure. The council is has 9 board members,
Mhm.
9 council members. What do you bring to the table that would improve the operation of this council?
Definitely. A few things. Even though this is my first time running for elected office, it's not my first time being involved in policies or creation of policies. For a while, I've been a community organizer, and not just a community organizer that's been out there protesting the streets, but I had the opportunity to sit down with candidates for city council, candidates for governor, and candidates for president of the United States. And they all asked me for my input about creating different policies for my platform. So I'm bringing to the city council a wealth of knowledge and the ability to draft legislation that will be able to protect the residents of Patterson. So I think that's something that is kind of missing here right now. We have the ability to not just pass a budget, but to write legislation that will protect our homeowners, protect our renters, and protect our children. And this is the type of things that I will bring to the city council in order to really move this city forward.
Thank you for the question. So as I mentioned before, I not only have a finance background, but I also have some legal training, both of which I think are extremely relevant and appropriate for the role of a city council person. Obviously, as I mentioned before, the city council is responsible for making the laws and approving the budget. I feel like as I'm uniquely skilled in both of those areas to be able to help the other city council members who may not have those particular skills or experiences to be able to understand what's being put in front of them and what's necessary going forward. Just by way of example, in my past life as a consultant for Ernst & Young, our role was to go around to Fortune 100 companies to be able to hear and understand their concerns and to be able to give back to them what our necessary plans were, what the downstream effects of those plans would be, and be able to help them implement those things in order to both understand where their costs were and to be able to reduce those costs going forward. I bring all of these experiences and more to the city council because it is a group of 9 individuals. It is a government body in which one person can't simply put forth platforms and have everything that they would like to be done. You need a majority of the vote in order to push whatever it is that you feel that the residents in your particular ward or in this or city at large need. So I've come to a bunch of city council meetings, I've watched some of them on TV, and I regularly see many times a lot of infighting that also happens on the city council. And the large part is because I don't know if all the members of the city council necessarily understand what it is their roles are or what some of the intricacies are when there's particular things that are passed. Again, these are the skills that I could be able to bring to the table to be able to help others to understand what's going on and to communicate a little bit better, to be able to push what's necessary going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts.
Throughout the years, I understand that, and we all understand based on your answers, that we as the legislative body, our main objective is to enact laws, right? Create laws. But there's there's other functions also that the council serve. Based on the council meetings that you have watched and the research that you have done on past adoption of budgets, past legislation, how do you feel about the performance of the current council, and what do you believe should be done differently?
We'll start with Mr. Thomas.
There are a few things that I think that should be done differently. As I mentioned before, that as a city council, we have the ability to draft and adopt different legislation. I think currently the city council passes a lot of resolutions, and that's great, but we need to really focus more on legislations, or ordinances rather, that will protect our residences, or protect our homeowners, protect our renters, protect our children, the most valuable assets that we have. We need to have ordinances and legislation that protects and focus on fair and affordable housing. We need to have legislation that focuses on making sure that we have stronger local development that drives economic development here in the Patterson city. We also need strong legislation that can protect our recreation. These are just some of the things that us as a city council can take more due diligence on. The other aspect of it is the fact that when we get handed the budget, we as a city council really need to do a better job at going through these line items and forcing to the administration to amend certain items, because we have so much power that just because it's presented to us doesn't mean that we have to vote on it. And I think that we, especially as myself, who are intelligent and due diligent about this, we demand to go through these items one by one, to have the administration present to us each line item to tell us how much paper are you buying, how much does the paper cost, how much does this cost, how much does this cost, is this necessary, is there any ways that we can find something that can reduce the cost? And these are the aspects that the city council really need to start focusing on to hold the administration accountable and save taxpayer dollars.
Thank.
Can you repeat the question quickly, please? I'm sorry.
You want to repeat the question?
I'll get right to the question. I don't have to repeat. My introduction was pretty lengthy. Basically, you've done your research, and you have witnessed through watching council meetings how the current council performs and handle its business. Do you agree with the way the council have been operating? And be specific. What should we be doing what should we be doing differently?
So, from my perspective, I think it's relatively simple, and I don't think that I'm saying anything that's rocket science or something that's not not evident to everyone. I think that the city council over the years, especially this last year, we have been dealing with a group of individuals. Everybody seems to have their own individual agendas, and there's not been a lot of cohesiveness amongst the group. I don't suggest that everyone should like each other. I don't suggest that everyone should always play well in the sandbox. But at the same time, we are at the end of the day one city, and we are at the end of the day that's representing the city of Patterson and all the individuals in it. From my perspective, it just seems that there's more infighting or more people jockeying for a position than there is actually getting things done. I think that there needs to be a little bit more cooperation. I think there needs to be more collaboration, and I think there needs to be more communication back with the residents. I don't understand why people are beholden to their individual wards when the decisions that they make affect the entire city of Paterson. I think that there should be more communication again with the city's residents. I believe that once I become councilman, I would like to be able to go around to the individual wards on a quarterly basis to be able to bring other council persons with me to be able to allow the people to be able to come, express their concerns, hear what the city's plans are, and be able to have more of a podium than the 3 minutes that they get here when they come to the city council meetings. I also don't believe that everyone on the city council fully understands the things that are put in front of them, and which is obviously a major concern, and I'm not sure if that's because things have been put in front of them relatively late, or if there's just a lack of skill or knowledge base to those particular things that are put in front of them. But at the same time, if you have people on the city council that have those abilities, they should be sharing those skill sets with the rest of the council.
Thank you. You still have Mr. Mitch Santiago.
Easy. 11 more days to go. A couple of more days. Well, I can just say that throughout the years that I've been working for the city, we had some of these meetings, some, not all, but some of them has been a fiasco. I believe the Madam President that is on right now, Ms. Ruby Cotton, I think that she has done a tremendous, excellent job. So, again, credit should be given where credit is due. But I seen, ladies and gentlemen, we got some serious clowns as elected officials sitting up here thinking that they God, just because they got a title, they think they got it like that, and it just doesn't work like that. We elected to be hands-on for the people, to help the people, to try to move the city forward, to work as a team, as a government body, to bring Paterson back to what it used to be. If you look, this city, no matter what anybody says, it's a beautiful city. We have a waterfalls. Not too many cities has a waterfalls. We have a lot of history within this city, and we need to utilize it. But can I really tell you that the citizens are being treated right at times? Maybe we could work some workshops, and we don't have to have too many citizens coming in here to bring their concerns. If we had open door policies and we would be in certain offices, we can take care of those concerns and everybody wouldn't have to come up here. And that is what I'm planning to do. But meanwhile, as long as I'm an elected official and I'm sitting here, every concern means a lot to me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Our next candidate for the question and answer part would be Mr. Devon Roberts.
Can I begin?
I think it's the button.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay.
Okay, so I am going to ask each individual one question pertaining to their individual platform to give you a chance to expound a little bit for the public. And I will start with Mr. Santiago. You've mentioned in your opening that you worked for DPW, which has taken a lot of heat during this election and frankly over the years for the condition of the city. Now, I personally believe that there's enough blame to go around and don't think that we can place all the issues on a group that is underserved. However, being on the inside, what are your plans or desires to improve the effectiveness of the Department of Public Works?
I'm glad you asked that, because it's quite and simple. We need more equipment. We need more patch trucks. We have one sewer truck to clean up the sewers. The hatchback for 6 wards. It's ridiculous. The guys, to all fairness to them, they can't do it. We need more equipment, more trucks. We need to get some of the administrators that don't even live in this city. They have dual jobs. They haven't done nothing. We have these law firms that don't even belong here. We should just fire them, take these salaries, cut these salaries, and place them in some of these departments like the Department of Public Works, and they budget so we can increase their pay, get more manpower, and enforce these laws in order for us to bring more revenue to this city. We cannot bring revenues to the city or for the department that has a skeleton crew or don't have the proper equipment. I will defend that department to the highest capacity, 150%. Those are my brothers and my sisters. I was a can man for 5 years. I know what is needed. I know what they need. And if they have it, they will get the job done.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. Next question is for Mr. Flavio Rivera. We haven't had the pleasure of seeing or hearing you at many of the debates, but it's my understanding that you are running on being well-versed in your financial literacy and stating your service on the Board of Education as evidence. First off, thank you for servicing our children in the school system for these past few years. With that said, the budget is $540+ million on any given year over the last however long. Yet, by most accounts, it still seems as if we need more funding. Can you share with the group and the city of Patterson how your tenure on the school board has helped the board become more fiscally responsible as you seek to do with the city budget, which only has half as much money?
Yeah, so first of all, at the board, I've tried and I have changed the culture of the way we do business there. There was one incident, we only have 2 minutes, but let me just share as much as possible. About a month and a half ago, I was presented, and this is the type of questions I want to see here at the City Council. We can assume the administration is doing the job. I was presented in the Finance Committee, I was presented with a resolution for us to contemplate approving to do fencing and security booth in one of the high schools. And the proposal was for 1.4. The company proposed doing the project for $1.4 million. I raised a question that normally doesn't get asked here because that's the job of the administration supposedly, but it's not just the administration. We need to hold people accountable. I asked the administration a question: how much did our engineer said that project should have cost? The answer was $457,000. $457,000. That means that if I didn't ask that question, we would have spent $1.4 million for a project that should have cost $457,000. Then, in a following meeting, because that opened a whole can of worms, because I had a lot of questions, this is what I've been doing for 14 years. My daily job, this is what I do. I asked the next question. Actually, they came at the next meeting and said that we were doing it in-house for $330,000. That saved the district $1 million. Also, when Dr. Evans, and don't forget, the district was run by the state. When Dr. Evans was there and was contemplating doing a tax increase, I told him that he needed to get rid of all those consultants that he had, and I specified which ones, because he didn't have a specific job for them to do. It was just a hookup. It was just him putting people in places because he was asked to do so by whoever in the state. So my approach is we need to have a nonsense approach, and I have contributed a lot, but 2 minutes is not enough to tell you all I have done. That's just one example. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Last question is for Mr. Thomas. Your platform has been largely about fair and affordable housing, which is extremely important and clearly necessary. However, as you know, we have a significant issue with the budget, which levies a significant cost on the people who own the housing that you seek to impact through rent control and other tools. Many of these individuals are Patterson residents who rely on these rents in order to make ends meet. Specifically pay the costs associated with owning a home, taxes, sewer bills, general upkeep, etc. By capping the amount it may force some of these homeowners not to be able to afford their homes and discourage investment that we desperately need. Can you share with us your plan for alleviating this burden or concern?
Well, first of all, thank you for the question. As Devon mentioned, one of the things that I'm pushing for in the Fair and Affordable Housing Policy Platform is rent control. And rent control is something that's maybe new to Patterson, but isn't new everywhere else. There's many different cities all across the United States that have been using rent control and have been tremendous results being seen. Some of the questions that you have asked are some of the same questions that have been asked in other cities, where they have first feared that homeowners and other tenants, or rather developers, will face financial strain because of rent control. And what we've seen all across the board is the opposite is the case. What we see is that with rent control, that more people are able to save their money, and when you have more disposable income, it actually helps the local economy. But the other thing as well is that the rent control, even though right now it's capped at 5%, in the New Jersey and New York area, the income for most people only goes up 2%. So if the cap is at 5% and people's income is only going up 2%, they won't be able to meet the needs of being able to stay in that particular location. And at some point in time, people will have to either relocate or be forced to evict. I think that's a serious issue, and that we as a community have to have a dialogue. So this cap isn't something that's going to be based on my ideas, but it needs to have something with a dialogue with the community. I've already had one rent control forum in the community, and I think us as a city body need to have more of concerns with the community and really gauge from them what is affordable to them, and really try to work with the community and with different landlords and developers to see what is possible to move the city forward and keep people in their homes.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Roberts. We will now have for our question and answer portion of the Council at Large candidate forum will be Juan Mitch Santiago.
Much love and respect to all the candidates. Godspeed, good luck. We all here for the same purpose. I have no question for either one of you.
Thank you, Mr. Santiago. We will now have for our Council at Large candidate forum question and answer portion, Mr. Zelly Thomas.
Okay. As already been mentioned, I'm an advocate for fair and affordable housing. There is a huge potential for development in the downtown area, especially since we have that link to the New York area. How will we be able to ensure that when development begins, because it will begin, that Pattersonians can still be able to afford to live in that area? This question is for all the candidates.
We will start with Mr. Rivera.
You mind repeating that question again?
Sure. Yes. There's going to be a lot of development in the downtown area because of the linkage to New York and because it's like prime time real estate. What will we do as a city council to ensure that this area still remains affordable for Pattersonians and they don't get pushed out of this area?
I think it's a long time from coming, because I believe in order for the downtown area, we have development here for the past, we have apartments here for the past, I would say 8-9 years that have been remodeled. And a lot of people don't want to move into the downtown area because they don't feel safe. If you come here at 6 o'clock or 7, actually around 7 or 8 o'clock, it depends what time of the, what time of the year. There's no nightlife. You can't walk outside by yourself. So before we start thinking, and again, you could never be prepared for what's to come, but we first have to, set the stage to bring more development to downtown, and we have to address a lot of the issues, which are, quality of life. A lot of ordinance need to be enforced, which are not being enforced. You have a city hall here where you have people drinking outside the city hall, and we need to lead by example. We can't ask residents out there to do things that are not being done by a governmental entity. So we have to basically set the stage for the development to come in. And then a lot of times, listen, a lot of things are out of our control. It depends all on the market. The more value the properties gain, I think we best for every homeowner that we have. We're a big city. We have approximately 22,000 units in the city. So to try to prevent growth, I don't think will be the best thing for the city, to be honest. Thank you.
Mr. Roberts?
So I kind of disagree. I think that development is a lot closer than Mr. Rivera feels, especially given what you said about the link to New York City. Now, as you know, when developers come in, they are actually incentivized by the state and federal government in order to provide affordable housing. So that comes with already a built-in incentive for them to go ahead and put some type of caps in place. We could also do we could also try to do some type of a zoning to be able to say to these developers, look, if you want to come in and you want to be able to put whatever it is that you want to put up, you need to set aside a certain percentage of certain housing for whatever type of income we're talking about. I don't know if we necessarily need more low-income housing in the city of Patterson, but if we're talking about affordable housing and if we're some type of a rent cap, then perhaps that could be put in whatever type of ordinance that we're trying to put together in order for these developers to come in during those negotiation times. But I also wanted to point out that usually when economic development happens, usually jobs come into place. Now, if there are more jobs that are coming into the area, which obviously we desperately need given that our unemployment rate in this city is 3 times the state average, I think 12 or 13%. Those jobs should be able to help people to have more disposable income to be able to deal with whatever increases that happen with those particular housing units. Now, with the increase in development that comes downtown would also probably likely come with increase in certain amenities that happen. What I would like to see is to be able to encourage economic development or encourage the stores that are already within any particular areas to be able to allow them to be able to do so, to make those areas more comfortable, more affordable, or continue to be affordable for the residents that are already within those areas. But the downtown area can and will be separate. We should not try to prevent growth in the downtown area, especially when the city is so cash-strapped and in a desperate need for the revenues that it could generate. So if people want to come and spend $5, $6 on a coffee, by all means, they should do so. That's going to help the city.
I'm glad you asked that question. So that shows me that you have a vision. In order for you to think that way and ask that question is because you have a vision, and I like to be part of that vision. You are absolutely correct. Downtown area is horrible, horrible. I have gone to the Village, Manhattan, Jersey City, Newark. In order for us to help downtown, we have to have a plan, and it can't be a plan of us say, hey, I'm the man, I'm the one that is elected, I want to shine. No, the whole council has to come on board. The whole administration has to come on board. We have to bring these owners from downtown stores on board. I've been looking in certain areas in downtown, and they vacant. They totally vacant. But if we could speak to these owners and say, hey, let's bring downtown alive again. If you could fix the area and you could rent it out to certain people and a certain amount of rent, people in the city of Patterson, they're not making no money. The people here are hurting. And if you could rent these out at a certain amount of price for low income, or low-income housing. You could start filling up some of these areas up in downtown, and you could bring it alive again. We could bring some revenue within the city, hire more police officers, put them, even with the mounted unit, put them in patrol in downtown, and we could just come back and bring it alive again. But we have to have a vision. But you're absolutely correct. I'm on board with you with that. If we can make it happen, we can. But we can't just have one person thinking they could do it alone. We have to do this together. We have to bring these homeowners, these businesses, these investors, and say, hey, let's work together, let's get it done for we could just in the best interest of the city of Patterson.
Thank you.
Yes. This question is for all the candidates. One of the hot topics in the governor race, New Jersey governor race, was the legalization of marijuana. And that's something that's being really talked about right now in the Senate and Assembly. A lot of towns in New Jersey have already started to ban the possibility of having weed dispensaries. When this issue comes up to Patterson, are you in favor of weed dispensaries being located here in Patterson, or will you be against it?
We will start with Mr. Roberts.
I am absolutely in favor of those dispensaries being located here in Patterson. As we just talked about in the last question, we need as many jobs as we possibly can. We need as much revenue as we possibly can. As long as we can put certain parameters around these types of businesses and make sure that we understand exactly what we're getting into before we start to commit, then I'm all for it. I don't think that we should necessarily give, 30-year tax abatements for these particular entities to be able to come into play. As a matter of fact, quite frankly, I don't even know if they would be able to qualify for those because of different state and federal laws that are out there. But the one thing that we still need to try to figure out is how are we going to improve the safety in the city? Because as you know, marijuana is still against federal law, which means that you can't deposit any money into a federal bank, which means that these entities will have large cash amounts on hand. I'm not sure any of these places would want to come to Patterson, considering that they know that we have a large safety concern. As I mentioned before, residents, including myself, have bars on their windows. How are we going to incentivize places who have large amounts of cash to be able to come to the city when most of the people who work there will probably fear for their safety? So there's a lot of things that need to happen in order for that to actually come to fruition. But to answer your question, I'm absolutely on board with any and all type of industry that would like to come into Patterson to be able to provide jobs, to provide revenue, to increase the tax base, and make this city a little bit more viable so that we can have the resources that are necessary to provide the services that the residents need.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. Who is it? I'm sorry, Mr. Santiago.
Legalizing marijuana within the city of Patterson. What are we showing our children? What are we teaching our youth? And I know you're just asking the question because I know in your heart you're not with that program because you're a total advocate for children. I'm a total advocate for children because I was elected for the school board. What the children see is what they learn. Today is marijuana. When they can't really feel the high no more, what's next? Cocaine? Crack? I'm totally against it. We can't be having this. If people are driving within the city of Patterson, a car goes by you, and you smell the thing. A friend of mine goes, man, we got a skunk around here. I said, that's not skunk, that's marijuana. Ain't no skunk in downtown Patterson. You go to Eastside Park, it's marijuana haven. It's out of control right now. Who's going to enforce what? Who's going to do what? Right now, things are out of control, and we're going to bring more problems to this city to legalize marijuana? Not me standing. I will vote no. I'm totally against it. You can't have it. Can't do it. We come here to help our citizens, help our city, help our seniors. Now we want to bring marijuana. No, not me. No.
The question, we as a council don't legalize marijuana. We would have to make a determination if it would be good for the city to allow the dispensary to be in the city of Patterson. So I'm going to stay away from the topic of us legalizing marijuana, because even if the dispensary is not in Patterson, it will still be legal in Patterson to consume marijuana. So to that point, I would have to see, I would have to see how many jobs. I got to see the pros and cons of it. I have thought about it a little bit, seeing that the actual budget in the state is anticipating some of this legalization revenue of marijuana being in the budget. So that means they are pushing for it. If not, we're going to have a shortfall there. But I would like to see the pros and cons. It's definitely going to create some jobs. I want to see how many jobs it's going to create. And again, it's a dispensary. If you look at history, alcohol was illegal a long time ago. I personally have never consumed marijuana because I've always been a leader, never a follower. It's just a choice of my own. I never wanted to try it. That's just a personal thing, but I don't hold, whoever wants to do it, that's on them, especially after it's legalized. I am not here to pass judgment on people. I'm just here to make decisions that will benefit the city and all the residents here. So it would be irresponsible in my part to just think about dollars and cents. I would like to see the pros and cons when we have a lengthy discussion as a council. And from that point on, we'll take the decision. But, this is not the only city that's going to want this dispensary. And if the opportunity comes into play, we need to look into it seriously. Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Ellie? Mr. Thomas, I'm sorry.
Thank you, gentlemen. The last question I have is for Flavio and Mr. Juan. The question is, we talked a lot so far about legislation and our roles as legislators on the city council. You two already have history of being legislators in the past by sitting on the Board of Education. What legislation have you personally written as a commissioner that has positively impacted teachers or the children of Patterson?
Start with me?
We'll start with you, Mr. Rivera.
Sure. When I was brought into the board, I was actually chosen by the board members. And then I got reelected by the people of Patterson. I started looking at a lot of the issues that we had regarding services that we were providing to the students. The Board of Education is not a new entity. Just like the city of Patterson, we have all the laws in the books, they just don't get enforced. So the mentality, when we decide to run for council and we look at our job description, it's interesting how some people just think that we're just here to legislate, and we're not. That means that most of the people sitting here in the city council have not done their job then, because you could ask people that have been here for 8 years how many new pieces of legislation they have brought to the table, and you could probably count them with one hand. The issue that we have in the district and the issue that we have here is not about policies in place. It's about making things that are already in place better. So as a board member, I made sure that the resources that we have in place, with the limited authority that I had, being that the state, that the district is being run by the state, we're getting local control soon, we have taken a lot of measures and demand a lot from the administration to make sure that the resources we do have are being utilized for the best interest of the kids. And that's what I'm going to do here at the city council. I'm going to make sure, I don't mean to micromanage, but I want to make sure that I hold the administration accountable and that the ordinances we have right now in place get enforced. Each of these entities have, hundreds of years. So for us to think that we're going to come here, if the opportunity arises where new legislation needs to be, put through, then we need to do it. But right now, the issue that we have is that things that are in place are not being enforced. Thank you.
Mr. Santiago?
Well, when I first came to the to the Patterson School Board, when I first got elected there, I came there pretty gung-ho. I thought I was going to just change the world. But I had some individuals that were there. May he rest in peace, Jim Comerford. Rest in peace, Jesse Dixon. And like Dr. Hodges, Anne-Marie Vinceri, and of course, Al Moody was actually my mentor sitting there along with everybody else. That we had to work as a team. We had to do it together. But knowing that it's run by the state, there's certain things we just couldn't do. Certain things we could just bring ideas to the table, and the state would say, hey, we could fly with this. One thing was the smoking zone when I was there. The idea, we went and got the signs, and we put the smoking signs throughout the district in the city of Patterson. And if you notice, some of the teachers, they cannot smoke in front of the school. They have to go smoke in a designated area. That was our idea. I can't come here, try to grandstand and say it's mine, because we did it as a team. Another thing was the uniforms. We got certain people that are running for certain positions in the city. I brought the uniform ideas. No, they did not. We went to Las Vegas when the killing took place, down there in the school, me along with Chauncey Brown, Danny Vergara. We saw the children with uniforms. We said, excellent idea. We saw them with ID cards to identify the children. In Chicago, we did the same thing. And we said, hey, let's bring this to Patterson. And it was up to the state to approve, but we did it as a team. The last thing was the sniffing of the dogs within the high schools. I brought the idea because of weapons and the knives and the drugs being snuck in to use the dogs, and that they shut down.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas.